Hola! Today, we'll be learning about and practicing with los pronombres de objeto directo, direct object pronouns, and pronombres de objeto indirecto, indirect object pronouns, in Español. You've been using these in English for about as long as you could speak, in all likelihood of speaking complete sentences, but you probably haven't had to think all that much about what they are and how or why we use them. So we're going to focus on that a little bit today. Our main focus for this unit is going to be on the direct object pronouns, or los pronombres de objeto directo. So that's where you're going to see the bulk of the notes and the bulk of the practice. But it is also important that you start to receive some practice with los pronombres de objeto indirecto, indirect object pronouns. So make sure that if you're having any difficulties with either, or you have questions, that you ask. And when you have the opportunity to pause the video, complete some activities, and then come check in with me, that you take advantage of that opportunity. Okay, let's begin. And we're going to start off with the pronombres de objeto directo, which I will often refer to as DOPs. So you see at the bottom here it says aprendemos a usar los DOPs. Instead of having to say pronombres de objeto directo or direct object pronouns over and over again, gets a little wordy. I often just abbreviate it to DOPs. So if you see on a worksheet, use DOPs, that's what this is referring to. I'll often use DOPs as a clarifier, and you'll usually see pronombres de objeto directo in the instructions either way at least once. The first thing you need to know is ¿qué es un objeto directo? Because before we work with a direct object pronoun, we need to know what the heck a direct object is to begin with. And this is where your notes packet officially starts. So first off, the direct object, or DO, in a sentence, is the person or thing that directly receives the action of the verb. And in just a moment or so, you'll be doing a couple of activities that will help you practice finding the direct object in a sentence or in a question, and just being able to make sure that you can identify it. To find the direct object in a sentence, you can ask yourself ¿qué, what, o quién, who, is on the receiving end of the action. So far, we've been focusing on a great deal on subject pronouns. Yo, tú, él, ella, nosotros, ellos, ustedes. So I, you, he or she, we, they. That talks about who does the action, and now we're on the other end. As we start working with these, it's important that you remember that you are going to be attempting to find the direct object in a sentence and then rewrite the sentence, replacing the direct object with the direct object pronoun. If you're able to do more than this and able to answer questions and do things that aren't mentioned in this video, by all means, feel free to do so. Feel free to ask for permission to try, because I certainly do have things that are a little more complex and more advanced. But for what we need to be able to do now, your goal is going to be to recognize a direct object in a sentence and replace it with a direct object pronoun. And please forgive the squeaking. The dog is running around here, so I apologize if it's distracting. We use direct object pronouns to avoid repetition. And then, as you'll see on Página 2, once you finish the first few questions here, at the bottom of Página 1 on the Por Ejemplo page, there are a couple of words that are repeated over and over and over again. And the goal of using a direct object pronoun is to avoid that level of repetition. It doesn't mean that we'll never use the same noun more than once, but it does mean that we won't use it as often as we would. So now what you need to do is pausa el video and complete the Por Ejemplo section on Página 1, and then look at the conversation at the top of Página 2 and try to figure out which sustantivos, or which noun or nouns, are repeated over and over again. And write that word or those words on the line provided at the top of Página 2. Once you're all done, I advise that you have me check your work just to make sure that you're on the right track, and then to move forward with getting the rest of the information you need to move on. All right, now that you know how to find a direct object in a sentence, we're going to move forward and make sure that you know what the direct object pronouns, or DOPs, are in Español. You'll notice that the chart on your page, Página 2, includes the Inglés, and that these words are different for the most part from subject pronouns in Español. You cannot use a direct object pronoun as the subject of a sentence. Hi, Connor. Sorry, that's the dog, as I said, okay? Remember that a direct object pronoun, its job is to replace a noun that is the direct object of a sentence. So, direct object pronoun in English for me is me, for you, te, for him, you or it is lo, if it's replacing a masculine singular noun. For her, you or it, la, if a feminine singular noun is being replaced. For us, we have nos, you all, only in España is os, and them or you all. If we're dealing with a mixed group of objects or multiple masculine items, we're dealing with los, and for multiple feminine items or a group of all girls, las. For the time being, and for those of you to whom this is completely new, direct object pronouns are going to go in front of the conjugated verb in a sentence. There are some of you who are going to be able to do more than that right off the bat, either because you've seen them before or because you speak Spanish or speak Portuguese or another similar language. If you're able to do that and want to try it out, by all means, go ahead. If you find that you feel that you can work ahead with this and you want to know other ways in which you can use these pronouns in short order, you can certainly ask about that too. Now, before we pause the video, to make sure that we do a complete couple of activities on Página 3, you need to remember, as stated briefly, that our first job in using them is to find and replace direct object pronouns. And this is not in your notes. You need to make sure that you are asking who or what is receiving the action. And one of the things that often helps students as they're starting to do this, especially students who benefit from visual reminders, is to circle, underline, or highlight the direct object in the original sentence to help you remember exactly what it is. Because one of the things you have to do is not just sweep up the noun involved. You need to sweep up any articles in front, so that'd be el, la, los, or las, and any adjectives that are modifying or describing the noun in question. And that's something that can take a little practice for people. So having that visual reminder to get rid of a whole group of words in some cases can be helpful. Also remember that when you rewrite the sentence, especially at the bottom of Página 3, you need to make sure to put the pronoun before the conjugated verb. Give the activities on Página 3 a try. Pause the video and have me look over your work, or if you want to make sure you're on the right track, call me over and ask me in advance before you start changing your direct objects to direct object pronouns. And then once you feel that you are 100% set and ready to move on, you're going to move on to Página 4, which is los pronombres de objeto indirecto, or indirect object pronouns. Okay, los pronombres de objeto indirecto only deal with people or animals. So it's not, it never has to do with items. They never have to do with buildings or places, only people or animals. So un objeto indirecto, or IO, of a sentence is the person, or the group of people, or the animal or animals who indirectly receive the action. And the way we find these is usually by asking to whom or for whom an action is done. So if you're looking towards the end of a sentence at this stage of the game, and you see a, and then someone's name, or a la profesora, al perro, a la directora, so to the principal, al gato, to the cat. That's often a hint to use an indirect object pronoun. Another hint to use an indirect object pronoun can be the word para, used to mean for in someone else's name. Most of the indirect object pronouns, which you'll often hear me refer to as IOPs or YOPs, are identical to the DOPs. So you have tu or for me, which is me, Two are for you, which is te. Two are for him, her, or you is different. It's le. Two are for us, nos. Two are for you all in España only is os. And two are for them or you all is les. Make sure that you have these down correctly. So once again, how do we use the pronombres de objeto indirecto, or yaps? The same thing that we're going to do here. We're going to do here the same thing that we did with the dops. Find and replace. So you're looking for to whom, a someone, and or for whom, para someone. And once again, I strongly recommend that you use that visual in the original sentence to help you remember what it is. And that when you rewrite the sentence, make sure to put the pronoun before the conjugated verb. There are far fewer activities on the indirect object pronouns in this notes packet than there are on the direct object pronouns. And so you need to remember that you can follow similar steps, almost the same steps, to help you find them and then replace them. But you need to make sure that you can find the indirect object correctly and that you can also figure out how to replace it. So if you have questions as you're working through this, make sure that you pause the video and ask. And then once you are done, make sure to have me check your work so we can work through any tough spots and help you understand better where you are getting stuck. Gracias. Once you're done, move on to the next activities.